Solar panels, smart lighting, and PropTech-led property management systems are all cool, but if people find it hard to get into or use your building, what's the point? I'm Robert McLean, and in this edition of the Prime Pod, I'm speaking with two guests about a new initiative about the most basic of building functions, accessibility, and about how many landlords and developers are unwittingly making life harder for their tenants. With me in the studio today is Tewfik Sabongui of Colliers International, and I'm speaking online at the same time with Tamás Méri, a co-founder of Access4You. Tamás, maybe we could start with you because you've actually been involved in getting this company going. How big a problem is accessibility these days, especially in Central Europe? I thought all the new buildings have wheelchairs, are wheelchair accessible.
Thank you. Hi, Robert. Hi. Let me start at that point that probably it's an interesting statistic for all of us, for the audience, that basically 16% of each society is disabled people. So they are suffering different kinds of barriers. They are living with limitations in terms of moving or hearing, visual impairment, cognitive problems, and they don't see them. What is the problem? Why we don't see them among us in our everyday life? So they are underrepresented for sure. One reason is that part of these limitations are invisible. So like someone with autism or a deaf person you cannot recognize it. But major problem is that our built environment is not inclusive at all. That's the main reason. Inclusion means that they can enter and they can have an access to the services of the buildings. So this is a big problem, and this is a global problem for them. And beside of that major lack, that the buildings are not fully accessible for them, that there is no information about it. So for these people to be in a position to plan their life in advance based on real and true data is significant. It is far easier for them that if they know that wherever they go, they can enter and they have an access to the main services. And actually our answer is to solve this problem. We cannot save the world rebuilding the whole, all the buildings, the built environment, but to deliver true and detailed data about the accessibility of these buildings, this is feasible. This is our mission, what we are doing.
Great, thanks a lot for that. Maybe just so that people can understand, I think everybody gets the idea of wheelchair accessibility. Can you give a couple of examples of other types of, as you say, invisible handicaps or invisible issues that people wouldn't normally know about, and what building owners or developers can do to mitigate the problem?
Yeah, actually, as a laik, we always think that accessibility is about wheelchair users, but this is not the fact. Actually, they are only one stakeholder group of those 8 who we are delivering the information. For example, with visual impairments, you are not blind, but you don't see correctly. I'm an age of 55, but a few weeks ago, I was running through a glass door because I was busy and I had that time my glasses on with bad visual capacity, let's say, and I didn't recognize that there is a glass door in front of me. And actually with a very simple signage, or let's say it's a vignette or something, which a few euro, let's say, the landlord could have made it for me visible, and I wouldn't suffer a few days headache after the knockout of the door. So this is, let's say, an example which is really, we don't think of it. It's very simple.
Is that an example of something where even someone who has very good sight, even someone like you or me could run into it, could make that kind of a mistake, but that's the type of thing that visually impaired people probably run into on a daily basis?
Yes, it is like that. So actually what we see that for them is, let's say, is a have to have. For us, is a nice to have. What does it mean? That if landlords are making a more inclusive environment in their buildings, which is a core need for these people with limitations, but it makes the whole building more convenient for everyone. So basically the reached crowd with these services is much wider than the people with limitation based on statistics. You understand what I mean? That for them it's a need. For us is a better life, or is a better environment.
Okay, thanks a lot. Tewfik, let's bring you into this. Why have you decided to get involved in this so much? What is it that speaks to you about it? Is this something that you think has been ignored, even if it's unwittingly by building owners and developers?
Okay, first of all, I want to say hi to everybody and to the podcast listeners, and thank you for inviting me. Well, I think that's a very critical, important question, and there is no one straight, simple, short answer to it. I think there is a few aspects to it. First of all, I think with time we are all evolving. The business environment, the business needs are changing. We need to become more flexible. We need to be more holistic in our approach in general, because I think health and having a balance between our work life and social life, even within the office or business encounters, is very important and critical. And I would not say it's only about the landlords or the owners. I think it's a responsibility which is shared equally between the landlords, owners, but the tenants and occupiers equally. It is important from two aspects. One is it is the right thing to do on a humane level. It is important to be able to integrate all categories of people with the differences they have, including the special needs some of the citizens and people might have. It's not that it has been ignored before. I think there always existed certain norms which might vary from country to country, legislation to legislation, and some of them have it better set than others. But I think in many aspects, the practicality of it and reflecting the real life encounters, experiences into what is a norm is not always exactly matched, which means, and I give again a very, very simple example. Most people, and we mentioned that most people, when they think of disability or people with special needs, they instantly would probably think of a person in a wheelchair. And we have just mentioned and heard there are different types of inabilities which we need to think of. But taking that example of a person in a wheelchair, most of the modern office buildings, when they have their parking places, they have dedicated, or in the shopping centers and retail parks, they have dedicated parking lots for people with wheelchairs. Nevertheless, where they are located is not always the most naturally common, rational place where to locate them, because they still have certain obstacles or encounters they need to go through to reach the destinations they need to reach. And this is a practicality thing which I think people, landlords, architects need to think of. So it is to be able to integrate people with special needs into the lifestyle or the life, the business life of the companies, corporations. And the other thing is, and looking at it from the opposite side, we all know that the demographics across Europe and the world, Central Europe, we all sort of meet the challenges of finding enough people to employ, people who could be good at what they do. And the category of the people with special needs, there is a certain percentage of people who could be a very valuable input into the working force of every society, of every country, which are being somehow left out just because the facilities and the accessibility and the practical use of having them being part of an office makes it quite challenging for them to feel comfortable about going to a place and feeling fully integrated. So if we improve that aspect, that will open another window for the employment market to be able to start taking people on board who have been left out and are very valuable and can add a lot of value to all types of businesses.
I think that's something that we're seeing more and more in society in general, is this idea of how being inclusive as a company actually has great benefits for the entire company on various levels. Even, there's a new generation coming into the workforce that I think demands those types of things. But I think also you tend to end up being more aware of the issues of your entire team.
Well, indeed, and definitely, it's good to see that societies and cultures and open-mindedness is changing, is improving. People are becoming far more tolerant in many aspects. Others are not. Of course, there's always a counter force.
Sure.
This dynamics, but overall, definitely yes. And as I said, I would say the angle is widening between the range and scope of what you have as part of your ordinary day. So in terms of age, now the mix between much younger and much older people, and they still work in the same office and do things. The genders, nationalities, the languages spoken. We are becoming more multinational. We are becoming more global, actually, in each of the different countries and places.
When it comes to companies, when you speak with them, how open are developers or landlords to these ideas of taking the idea of accessibility more seriously? Is it something where you're saying you better do this or you're going to have problems, or do they welcome this sort of an initiative from what you've found?
Well, my experience is actually most of our clients and most of the developers and investors are actually very supportive of that. And they have been always sort of having it as part of what they want to achieve. I think the missing brick or the bridge which was not that available was having some specialized advisory firms telling exactly what are the things which need to be fine-tuned. Mm-hmm. It's not that they are non-existent, but they are maybe at a very basic level. Maybe there are certain things which can be differently added and improved, and people are just not simply aware of it. Not that they don't want to, they just don't think of it, or they sometimes you just miss certain very maybe straightforward, easy things. You simply miss them, and the initiative and thanks to this also cooperation with companies like Access4You, because they're specialized in it, they know exactly what it takes to improve what is missing or add or change. So it's another just way of consulting and helping, giving advice how you can improve your existing building or space to allow a wider range of different people to be able to easily commute and get and access your property. So it's about mobility at the end of it.
Right. Yeah. Tamás, on a practical level, how does this work? A company calls you up, said we'd like to be advised on this. What is the process? How long does it take? And how quickly can steps be made?
All right. But Robert, let me reflect first, just very briefly on what Tewfik told to us, that we on our side, we have also a very positive feedback from the companies. Really, the attitude is there. I mean, the landlords, the company owners, they understand that this is, on one side, this is a moral obligation for them. On the other side, this is also a business potential for a lot of companies. Either you are selling something, so you may approach another 15-16% of consumers, or as employer, also new doors are opening for you. So they are very positive. What was the lack here, the major problem, that there is no common language. They never understood that if I want to be inclusive, what does it mean? What should I deliver? What are the requirements? So basically, with our help, with our methodology, how we have them, and now I can answer your question, that basically Access4You is a European certification mark. We are giving a license to the building that for which stakeholders groups deliver the hard criteria. That means that our approach is based on usability, not on different laws and codes. because as Tewfik mentioned, the codes are similar but a bit different. And if you want to deliver a uniformed, standardized solution based on a mobile application, the requirements or the how to say the base rules must be the same. Otherwise, there is a must. So wherever they are traveling, our users, they have to use the same system and the same requirements. In Europe, everything is based on mainly on the ISO. There is an ISO for accessibility, and the local building codes are mainly reflecting on that. So there is let's say a strong common base for that. But we are also building on it very much. But our approach is a usability approach. What does it mean? It doesn't require so much from the landlords, and it delivers enough for the user. So this is a kind of compromise. And based on this approach, everything is much smooth and much friendly, and it's not that kind of feeling that a crowd is coming, shouting and requiring what is their right. And so this is a kind of win-win situation. And what is the solution? That in order to be entitled to use this certification, that I'm accessible for different kind of groups, an audit is required. We have a special software. We are collecting data. We have something like 1,000 different questions about the buildings, technical details that what are relevant for the users. We are collecting all this data with photos, with measurements, yes, no answers. So we are collecting every data, we are evaluating it, and based on that we are issuing an audit report. The whole story takes, in the largest building, 1 day on-site work and plus paperwork at home. So the whole procedure, it depends only on the speed of the client, let's say, and our capacity in terms of audit. But within 2 months, you can have a full and complete report, which is a mirror to the building owners or the operator and also the tenant. We not only have Access4You building as a product, which is different kind of real estate segments, public area where everyone can enter. But as mentioned, Tewfik, the tenants are also responsible for their areas. This is the so-called Access4You workplace, which is not, the principal is not the building owner, but the user, the tenant. So it is, the entities are different. And for that reason, the product is a bit different. So basically, once we are ready with the evaluation of our audit, the audit report contains the actual level of accessibility of the current of the particular place. We also include a chapter for improvement suggestions, which is very important that they understand that how far I am and what shall I do in order to be more inclusive. And frankly saying, based on our experience, a lot of these improvements are very, very easy things. A few €100 devices can have, for example, for people with bad hearing, for example, or the signage what I mentioned, or the pictograph in the buildings for the orientation that also helps for one stakeholder group. So these are really easy things. So it is not a huge investment for the landlord. The problem was that everyone has a basic fear based on non-understanding. So, and the other side was that until now, I'm accessible was based on a self-reporting system, but linked to nothing actually, linked to an everyday understanding what does it mean, and but it was not accurate. So basically, through this methodology, what we set up here, we created a kind of common language between the users and the building owners, and this was probably one of the major luck in this whole story, that to create a common understanding actually. So the whole procedure is really quick and valuable on the end, what we deliver.